Welcome to How to Cook That. I'm Ann Reardon, and debunking has continued to be at the top of the request list, so I have a packed episode for you this week, including exploding eggs and why don't flakes melt in the microwave? So many other things in there too. Let's start with this one sent to me on Twitter by Leals. Thank you for that. He linked me to an article about Abby Quinnen, who is a dancer, actor, model, and she put this post on her social media. It says, "We so desperately wanted to share daily vlogs with you, but unfortunately I've had an accident. Whilst we were attempting to create a glass bottle into a vase from following a YouTube tutorial, it went terribly wrong and resulted in me incurring injuries and burns requiring continuous hospital treatment over the past 7 weeks. I really need you all to be so careful with what you're doing and if you're copying any YouTube videos. Abby, I hope you're doing okay. Burns are awful, as you know, and anyone who's had burns know they're painful, they have a long recovery time. So anything that has the inherent danger of causing burns or potentially causing burns is not a good thing. So I want to look at today, is this particular glass bottle hack inherently dangerous? Or was this just an unfortunate accident? So there are so many videos about this hack. They've been around for more than 10 years. They've been on the platform for a long time. So typically what it shows in all these videos is someone wrapping string around a bottle, then taking that string off and dipping it in some sort of flammable liquid, then putting the string back on the bottle, lighting up the string, so heating up that area of the glass, and then suddenly dropping it into some cold water, which makes the glass crack along that heat line or the stress line in the glass. Sounds simple. Even Crazy Russian Hacker has done this one. But out of all of the videos I watched, he's the only one who wore safety gloves, safety goggles, and had a fire extinguisher on hand, which is probably because his motto is
safety is number one priority.
It looks simple enough, so I'm going to give the hack a go and see what happens. As well as a fire extinguisher, I'm going to have a wet cotton tea towel on hand that can be thrown over any flames just in case. I've got my bottle tied with string around it, so I'm going to take that off and soak it in isopropyl alcohol. Some of the videos use this and other ones of them use 100% acetone. Take the soaked string and put it back onto the bottle. The first thing I'm noticing here is while I'm trying to put this back on, my hands are now covered in flammable liquid. So I'm going to go and wash my hands and then put gloves on. But if you're watching this video, you can see the lady put the string back onto the bottle. Doesn't wash her hands, but instead wipes them on her clothes, then grabs the lighter. That is going to greatly increase the chances of your clothing setting on fire. Now with these flammable liquids, it's not the liquid that catches fire, but instead the fumes. So by the time I wash my hands and put on heatproof gloves, there are not enough fumes left to ignite. So this hack kind of needs you to rush, which is not ideal for fire safety. I then tried a thicker string to give me a bit more time, and it did burn, but not for long enough to break the glass. Some of these videos say to wait until the flame dies down and then add more of the liquid onto the string. Now, if you've watched my previous videos, you'll know that you don't want to do that, because if there are any of the flames left, when you pour more on, it'll chase the fumes up into the bottle, causing the bottle to explode, and then you've got flames everywhere. So then I tried with a liquid that is more flammable, which I do not recommend that you do because obviously that is more dangerous. Those are pretty decent sized flames now, and you have to stand close to this to spin the bottle. You can't just put it down and walk away. And at this point, if you had any flammable liquid on your clothes, the fumes from that could quite easily ignite. Another thing to note is that you need a very big bucket. It has to be bigger than the height of the bottle so you can put it in flat, because if you tip that bottle as you try and put it in, then the flames are going to come upright up onto your sleeve. And the bottle still didn't break. Oh my goodness. Now I either have an unbreakable bottle or I need to stand there spinning these flames for longer. So let's give it another try. I kept this one burning for a full minute, which is a long time, and then placed it in the water, and success. It broke the bottle, but it actually broke it in 2 places, probably because my string was so thick. So obviously you can do this hack without getting burnt, but should the video have some safety warnings on it? Yes, it probably should, but YouTube doesn't have any policies against dangerous hacks. It has policies against dangerous pranks, and including, if you look at the details, ones that have a risk of causing burns, but there's no such policy for hacks. Perhaps there should be one that overwrites over the top of "this can cause severe burns, please be careful." On the same note, I also was sent in another one by Michelle, who sent me a disturbing article about a lady who had been burnt after following an online video that showed how to poach an egg in the microwave. Now, obviously, if you're working with flames, you're expecting that you could get burnt because it's fire, but with a poached egg in the microwave, you go and water an egg, microwave, you're not expecting to get burnt. They're pretty bad burns. And again, there are lots and lots and lots of videos on YouTube showing how to poach an egg in the microwave, just getting some water, putting the egg in, and then just microwaving it and taking it out, and you're done. So what would cause an egg to explode in the microwave? Well, if you've been looking on YouTube for egg explosions, which I'm sure all of you have searched for that, you will know that a whole egg in its shell will explode in the microwave when you put it in there. And a lot of people put the reasoning down to that if you've got the shell there. So it's going to build up steam inside, that's going to create pressure, and that's going to make the egg burst and pop. But if you have a look at this one, when I did it in my microwave, you can see there are actually beads of water forming on the outside of the egg because the shell is porous, it's letting that out. And my eggshell has cracked. So if the reason it explodes is simply because of pressure in the shell, this one should not explode, right? Wrong. That definitely still exploded. So it's not just the shell. So this is going to call for a lot more experiments. Let's start first with a whole hard-boiled egg, so there is no shell on it, and see what happens if we heat that up in the microwave. Some websites say it is the yolk that is the problem. It says that the water in the yolk gets superheated and then suddenly forms steam and makes it explode. So let's try just the egg yolk and see what that looks like in the microwave when we heat that up. That explodes. Let's try another one just for fun. And that explodes too. So if it's just the yolk, we should be able to put the boiled white in there and nothing should happen. So let's try that. Whoa, that looks like it was shot. Perhaps there was a tiny bit of yolk left on it though. So let's do some experiments with uncooked eggs so we can see what happens, and I can make sure the yolk and the white are completely separate. Let's see what happens first of all with an uncooked egg yolk. Let's see that again in slow motion. Now the problem here is not just that it makes a mess in your microwave and I have to keep cleaning my microwave every time I do this for you. The problem is, what if you pulled it out of the microwave just before it gets to that point of exploding, and then it explodes in your face? If it's just the yolk, let's try it with just the white and see what happens. It starts popping and spitting bits out before it's even cooked, and then eventually when it's just starting to look cooked, it explodes out of the bowl. So it's not just the yolk, it's the white as well. Let's see what happens if we add water to this situation. So we're going to poach our egg like they showed in the videos. The egg is only just starting to look cooked. It's only been in for 55 seconds, and when the egg explodes, it is shooting that boiling water everywhere, and that is causing burns more so than if you just had the egg exploding on you, because there's more of it. So it's even more dangerous than just cooking the egg on its own. And the trouble is, all microwaves are different in their wattage and their power amount, so you can't go, oh, well, that one exploded at 50 this many seconds, so therefore I'll do it for less than that and it'll be fine, because your microwave might be different to my microwave. So you can't just go on what it's at. Microwaves are different to when you're cooking an egg in a pan. When you poach an egg in water in a pan, the pan heats up, then the water heats up, and that cooks the egg. When you do it in a microwave, microwaves go straight through your container, straight through the water. They can go straight into the center of that egg and superheat it, and egg heats up and the water goes everywhere. So not the safest way to cook an egg. There are some videos that say if you pierce the yolk, it solves that problem. I don't think that's going to work because we've already established it's not just the yolk that's exploding, but let's give it a go and see what happens. I've poked 3 holes in this yolk using a knife, so they're big holes. And after 51 seconds, so to be on the safe side, don't microwave eggs, cook them in the pan instead. Apparently fried eggs can occasionally explode too, the yolk of them, but it is very, very, very rare compared to the number of times it happens in the microwave. So no eggs in the microwave, just to be safe. I was just fascinated by this next one that was sent in. It just caught my imagination. Please Cakes did a video which showed a Cadbury flake not melting in the microwave. Now, according to their ingredients and comparing that to normal Cadbury milk chocolate, they have the same ingredients, and if we look at the nutritional composition, it's virtually identical. So it's chocolate. Why is it not melting? So I had to try it for myself. So let's put some flake on a plate with some normal chocolate and put it in the microwave and see what happens. 1 minute later and the flake is crumbly but not melted, and the normal chocolate is liquidy. How weird is that? Why don't flakes melt in the microwave? Let's try over a direct heat source instead. On a hot pan, the chocolate will melt fairly quickly, as you can see here, and the flake, nothing. It's not melting. It feels hot, but it just doesn't melt. Let me try a blowtorch instead. We can even burn this chocolate and set it on fire and it glows like a piece of burning wood, but it's not going to melt. So why is that the case? Well, according to the Scottish Sun, they say the scientific reason a flake does not melt is that the blowtorch delivered too much energy. When fragments of the flake fall onto the hands of a person eating the chocolate bar, the small amount of heat energy in the hand will cause a phase transition from solid to liquid. Now, I understand what they're saying there about a blowtorch is too hot and it's just going to burn the chocolate, but it should still melt the chocolate around it. And I don't think the person who gave this response has ever tried to melt a flake and realized that it just won't melt. But for the sake of science, I'm going to put some flake in my hand and some normal chocolate in my hand, form a fist, hold it there for 5 minutes, and we'll see what happens. After 5 minutes, the normal chocolate is soft, it's a bit like Play-Doh, it's melty, and the flake is crumbly, probably because I squashed it in my hand, but it's not melted, it hasn't changed into a liquid state at all. It is still just crumbly. Now, of course, when you put the flake in your mouth, it seems to melt in your mouth like normal chocolate, but in your mouth, you've got saliva. And if you add a flake to hot water, it also looks like it melts away, but you're adding water to it. So when you're adding something, another liquid to it or more cocoa butter to it, you can make it melt, but in its current form, it won't melt. It will get to the point of burning and it still won't melt. So I did a bit more digging around to find out why this is. According to Science Focus, they say although flake is made from milk chocolate, the manufacturing process gives it a different arrangement of fat and cocoa solids. So the melting fat isn't able to lubricate the cocoa particles to the point where they will flow. Well, that doesn't really give us any actionable information there. It's saying it's the same stuff but in a slightly different form. They've done something in the manufacturing. Cosmopolitan says the theory behind Flake's inability to melt is apparently because it's made out of dehydrated milk chocolate, which means it slowly hardens and the sugar burns. And according to BuzzFeed, they spoke to someone at Cadbury, and Cadbury apparently said they do have a secret manufacturing process which is used when making flakes. How we do it is a carefully guarded secret that is known only to a select few at Cadbury. And a different spokesperson said the reason it's difficult to melt is because for nearly a century we have deliberately controlled the final manufacturing process to ensure the folds of the bar crumble in the mouth. Interesting. And that's it. There's no more information about it. That's all we've got to go on. I love the idea that it's a 100-year-old closely guarded secret, though. That's kind of like a challenge to the food scientist in me to go, can we figure this out? So let's see if we can figure out how to make flakes. We'll start with the first and only theory that was actionable there, which is it's dehydrated chocolate. Let's melt some normal chocolate and spread it out really thinly and pop it in a slow oven just to get a little bit of liquid off it. There's not much liquid in chocolate anyway. It's fairly dry to start with. And you get a chocolate that's a bit more flaky, but it doesn't taste right. It tastes more like your baked chocolate chips. And the actual test that we need to know is, does it melt in the microwave? So let's put some of that in the microwave and have a look. And it's still melting in the microwave. That is not their secret. It's not what they're doing. One thing that I would like to try is when I was trying to melt the flake, the texture of the flake reminded me of what seized chocolate looks like. If you haven't seen seized chocolate before, it's when you have normal chocolate and it's melted and you add a little bit of water to it, and then when you stir it up, it seizes. It goes sort of crumbly and a bit hard depending on how much water you add, depends on how crumbly and how hard it gets. Obviously, if you're making a ganache or some sort of chocolate sauce, you can just add more liquid to fix that and you'll end up with a sauce, but you can't get it back to how the chocolate was before originally. So let's experiment with using seized chocolate. Now, obviously I'm adding water and their ingredients don't include water, but their ingredients do include milk, and milk is mainly made of water. So you could just add a little bit of milk to the chocolate instead of using water, and then you wouldn't have to list anything different on the ingredient list. Now, if I take that chocolate and roll it out really, really thin, I'm pressing down as hard as I can between two pieces of baking paper to get it as thin as I can. Obviously, they would have machinery that I don't have, but I'll just do my best. And then scrape it up, and oh, that's looking pretty good so far. If I just take all of those little bits and try and sort of square them off into a bar shape, that's not bad for a first attempt. They look better depending on how thin I rolled the chocolate, and slightly adjusting the amount of water up or down also affects the colour and how crumbly it is. Now I think this tastes like a flake. We can get Dave to check. All right, I need you to put a blindfold on.
Mm-hmm.
And
wow.
then I'm going to give you something to taste, but it will taste okay.
Sure. Yes, I should have learnt my lesson by now, but how do I look?
Good. Okay, the reason you're blindfolded is I need you to try and identify what chocolate bar this is. If you reach out in front of you. There we go.
Okay. Is it one I'll know?
I don't know. We'll see.
Is it like turmeric and sardine?
No. It's okay. a normal chocolate bar you buy at the shops.
Okay. It's crumbly and flaky. Cadbury. It's like no other chocolate tastes like flake tastes. It's a flake.
It is. Now for the real test, does it melt in the microwave? The normal chocolate is liquid and the homemade flake is crumbly. So you heard it here first. I think we just solved the mystery, the 100-year secret as to why flakes don't melt in the microwave and why they crumble in your mouth. So now you can make your own flakes at home. Easy. Now next I have a parcel that arrived in my letterbox, and I'm a bit excited because I think I know what it is. My publisher said they would send me an advanced copy of the book, which is just a digital print. It's not the full proper print from the actual printing company, so it won't look quite as glossy as the book that you will get is, but let's have a look at the book. Look, my book, how exciting. Oh my goodness, it's actually in a book. Now of course I've seen all these pages before because I wrote them, and I've seen them laid out on the computer, but I haven't seen it in a bound book. That is very exciting. How cool is that? It's a book with my name on it. Woo-hoo! Very exciting. I can't wait for you to get your hands on a copy too. It's very cool. And if you have pre-ordered, don't forget to enter the competition to win the furry knife sets for your chance to win that. And also, if you're a patron and you've pre-ordered, fill out the form to get your limited edition, exclusive, holographic signed book plate that you can stick in the front of the book. And I've hand signed those. They're not printed the signature on, they're all hand signed individually for you guys. This next video was sent in by Rose, and she said, this is actually insane. 5 Minute Crafts has a video saying if you get Coke and use it as a mouthwash, you will whiten your teeth. So I sent a message to my friend who is a dentist and asked her what she thought of this, and I'll read you her response because it was quite detailed. She says, Coke has a pH of 2.2 and tooth whitening agents have a pH of 5.3. Tooth enamel dissolves at 5.5 or less. As Coke is so acidic, it can dissolve the enamel, and by physically dissolving the outer layer of the enamel, it may appear to make teeth whiter initially, because if you had stains on that outer layer of the enamel and you've now removed that, it initially might look a little bit whiter. But Coke also contains caffeine and chromogens, which can be deposited on the teeth as a stain, and this may counteract the erosive physical stain removal effect. If enough Coke is consumed, it will dissolve so much of your tooth enamel that the yellow colour of the underlying dentine will be exposed and the teeth will appear yellower rather than whiter. I happen to have some baby teeth on hand. This baby tooth looks like it's in good condition. I'm going to put that into the glass and then fill that with Coke. I have another tooth and I'm going to put that in Coke no sugar, and for a control I have a glass of water with another tooth in that one. And now we will wait overnight and see what happens. Here is the tooth that's been in the water. Here is the Coke no sugar. Yeah, oh, that's a bit gross. And the Coke. Look at that brown tooth. The water one looks great, but both the Coke ones are brown. If I flip it over, you can see the bit that was resting on the bottom of the glass, it was protected and not exposed. Doesn't look as bad as the rest of it. I'm wondering if this will brush off or if it's stained the tooth. Even after brushing and rinsing, it's not as bad, but it's still a definite shade of brown. Not a great method to use to whiten your teeth. Definitely don't want to soak your teeth in Coke. Reminds me a bit of the experiment where you put an egg in vinegar. I don't know if you've seen that one. I'll do that for you. You put a whole egg in its shell, uncooked, in a glass of vinegar, and you leave it, and over a couple of days the acid in the vinegar breaks down the eggshell, so you get left just with the egg with that membrane around it. There's no shell left, so it's like a bouncy egg. And to show you this is not hard boiled, I will just pierce that for you. And see, we just have that little membrane that's left there, the egg, and some of the vinegar that went through the membrane. Thanks to everyone who sent me videos to debunk on Twitter, and thanks to my patrons for all your support. Don't forget to fill out the form on Patreon to get yourself a signed holographic bookplate to go in my cookbook when it arrives. How exciting! And if you liked this video, don't forget to let the algorithm know that you did by liking, commenting, subscribing, sharing, turning on notification bell, all of that stuff. You know what to do. Make it a great week, and I'll see you on Friday.